Authority Board of Directors is oral communication. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time?
We have not received any, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anyone in the room? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 4 items: approval of the minutes for the April 7th, 2020 meeting, approve the Housing Authority of Washington County operating budget for next fiscal year, FY 2020 through 2021, to approve the resolution and order in the matter of authorizing the executive director to execute all required documents and instruments for the development of the Tiger Triangle Apartments, and finally, authorize property, liability, earthquake, flood, and vehicle insurance premium payments for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. What are the wishes of the board?
Motion approved. Yeah.
We have
I motion.
And second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the second oral communications period for the Housing Authority Board of Directors. Is there anyone who has signed up or wishes to speak on the?
We have none that registered, Director Harrington.
Thank you. The next is Board of Directors announcements for the Housing Authority of Washington County. Any comments?
I'd just like to say that I'm pleased to hear today that we have opened up our waiting list again, and we are taking applicants. So during these hard times, I know there's going to be plenty of applicants, and I appreciate all that you guys do.
Thank you very much. And there should be information on the Washington County website for that. That can be found at co.washington.or.us. Thank you for mentioning that. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I'll take,
Go.
real quick, just wanted to make sure that, to flag for folks that, because of the COVID-19 response, we've been really working on making sure that rental assistance is available. And I know the Housing Authority itself is it's really important for residents to be able to access that. In Washington County, it's the community action agencies that are going to be delivering a lot of that rent assistance that's coming from the CARES Act as well as from the state. And so just, if folks are in need of assistance, the Housing Authority is going to be a great resource for getting information out about rental assistance and making sure that people have access to that, because we just know how important it is to make sure that folks are able to maintain their housing, especially after the eviction moratoriums shift and change. And so just wanted to make sure that that's out there and that folks are aware, and that we're a good resource for that as well.
Great. Thank you very much for those comments. Having a stable home is so key to a successful life. Thank you. All right. Seeing no further comments, do we have a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting today?
Motion.
And second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. So the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting of June 16th, 2020 is hereby adjourned. Thank you, directors, for joining us. Really appreciate it. So next, we'll move on to the Washington County Board of Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. Roll call, please.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners of Washington County, also serving as the governing body of Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting in regular session June 16th, 2020. Commissioner Willie.
Here.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Treese.
Here.
Vice Chair Scouten.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. All 5 of us are present. Thank you. Before we start on the agenda, I would just like to highlight a few changes today. After item 3A, our presentation, I will be making a statement with regard to Juneteenth. Then item 6B, an action item, has been advanced in today's agenda before our public hearings on the budget. So it's just a changed order. Item 5B has been revised. Item 5C, another budget item, has been revised. Under 5G, that has added a link to the land use and transportation supplemental information. Under the consent agenda, item D, as in dog, has added links to the bid award. Item I, as in Indio, has an added link to the bid award. Those are all the changes to the agenda that have occurred since our first publication of the agenda for today's meeting. And all of those items, with the exception of the, no, I haven't done it yet. I'm just covering what are the changes on the agenda before I move anywhere with the agenda.
Okay.
With regard to the statement. All right, so next on the agenda is oral communication, and as I have been doing the last few weeks, before we take oral communication, I want to highlight for everyone the reports that we have been getting on constituent communication. We've not had a board meeting for 2 weeks, so I want to let you know that we have received 155 emails during that time, with the themes as follows. A whole category on COVID-19 and the county applying for phase 2 as soon as possible, around advocates and parents advocating for sports and the youth and wanting the board to intervene with the governor, a concern about the impact of the expiring moratorium on rentals and evictions. We had 58 different emails with regard to the death of George Floyd, police brutality and accountability. We had 13 emails on the Washington County Jail incident. We've had a couple related to our diversity, equity, and inclusion. One with regard to land use and transportation and the Rygert Road concern. One the prior week on personal service providers and their need for support for PPE. We had a request to help advocate with the state for allowing groups larger than 100 for outdoor events during phase 2. And then we had 6 different communications 2 weeks ago on racial injustice and police practices, and upwards to 51 emails related to the appointment to the Fair Board that is on our agenda today. So all of that for the benefit of letting you know that we have been receiving those emails. Our staff has been very helpful for us in ensuring that you get not only a timely response, but the benefit of accurate information, and that we commissioners have full access to all of your emails and the staff response available to us prior to these Tuesday meetings. So now we'll move fully into oral communication to our board clerk. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. Sabim Sani, you are signed up first, so you will be the first one to go, and then we will proceed to our Zoom attendees.
Thank you. No worries. Yep. You're maintaining physical distance. That's excellent.
Thank you. Dear Chair Harrington and Commissioner Schouten, Treese, Rogers, and Willie. My name is Simab Husseini, and I'm a founder and board vice chair with the Oregon chapter for the Council on American Islamic Relations. I'm here because I'm here to speak of the need for a paradigm shift. These are never easy, especially when you're the ones responsible for those shifts and changes. But the draw here is the quality of living and life. The pull is equity and a secure society. And the call is Black Lives Matter. The solution is to defund the police. The resistance are the investments we've made in solidifying foundations of law enforcement as we know it now. To define by what I mean today is the increased militarization and punitive constructs that we were falsely led to believe were curtailing crime as time had changed since many of you were young. The truth is, the only thing that has changed is to reflect upon a law enforcement from long before this militarized approach and the need for giant jails and prisons. Are that more Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC as we have termed, have grown into needing to settle into daily civic life. And this landscape grew more colorful and beautiful. Those responsible who were not used to growing independence of these people were frightened. The foundations in over-policing directly relates to our upcoming Juneteenth. This is the only and most gentlest way for me to put this and explain the phenomena of defunding work today. So we ask you to join with us in helping you understand, again, that we all need what once was. Fewer judges, fewer militarized personnel with badges, and more of those who cared about the human impact of their service and work. Defunding isn't a strategy for anarchy and total chaos. It is a strategy towards a fair and equitable society and a full trust and empowerment of good people leading its society to greatness. It exists in most developed societies the world over. So what are we saying about us as a society in comparison today?
I'll need you to finish up.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have some folks signed up on Zoom.
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. First up will be Michael Sorensen, so let me promote him here for you. Michael, can you raise your hand so I can find you? I'm not seeing Michael, so we will move on to the next one, Marcia Callender. Not seeing Marcia, okay. All right, moving on to Rena. Let me promote you. All right. Rena, can you unmute yourself so we can hear you?
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Great. Would you like me to go ahead and start?
Yes, please. That would be wonderful.
Dear Commissioners, the proposed budget for Washington County's 2020-2021 is increasing law enforcement in the prison industrial complex by over $6.5 million, totaling 29% of the operating budget. The police do not need more body cameras. In fact, research shows that cameras do more to convict suspects than hinder the police wearing them, who often simply cover them up, turn them off, or delete footage. This increase in funding in the context of the uprisings that are happening globally comes across as a statement of apathy towards communities harmed by policing practices. Washington County should be taking this opportunity to respond to calls to both divest from the police and invest in community care. Concrete ways the county can do this now are to defund the Sheriff's Department and to terminate Washington County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Alden immediately for assaulting an unarmed community member of color to the point that he was hospitalized for 19 days and had permanent brain damage. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
All right. Next, Commissioners, we have Amy Johnson.
Amy, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My daughter might be chiming in a little bit, so I hope it doesn't get too
Okay.
loud. Okay. My name is Amy Johnson. I live in Beaverton, and I'm testifying today to ask you to reduce the budget of the Sheriff's Department and to remove Washington County's Sheriff Deputy Ryan Allen. The proposed budget for Washington County 2020-2021 is increasing law enforcement and the police industrial complex by over 6.5 million, totaling 29% of the operating budget. The police do not need more body cameras, as you've heard. They do not help change the police's behavior. They just further militarize the community. And the increase of funding in the context of the uprisings that are happening right now, happening globally, is fighting against the tides of racial justice and human rights. Washington County Sheriff's Deputy Ryan Allen's vicious assault on an unarmed Hispanic man makes it crystal clear how defunding the police is an elegant rallying cry to public officials, because it powerfully confronts the complicated, violent, and brutal history of white supremacy. The law enforcement budget must be reduced, and the money that we don't spend on policing our community shall be invested into the community, specifically Black and Brown communities. We must have democratic community control over safety and justice rooted in restoration and healing. The police cannot be reformed. They must be abolished. Nothing short of police and prison abolition is sufficient to make Black lives matter. Also, ensure that the Sheriff's Office, DOC, and court are complying with sanctuary from ICE. If the sheriff cannot do this, he should resign. Thank you for your time, and I just want to emphasize that this is happening in our community, and we really do need to make the shift. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and sharing your comments. Do we have anyone else?
No, Madam Chair, we have no one else for this morning, for this beginning opportunity.
So I just want to double check. Is Michael Sorensen available or Marcia Kepler?
Looks like Marcia just checked in, so we allow her.
Marcia, can you hear us? Ms. Kepler? Kelper?
You're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you. You'll have to unmute yourself, Marcia. There you go.
Hi, Marcia, can you hear us? I can't hear you yet.
She is unmuted. We should be able to pick her up.
Marcia, are you there? Is your computer muted? Not just the Zoom mute? Go down to your speakers. I have this trouble all the time in Teams and Zoom meetings, so. I'm sorry, Ms. Kelper, we're not able to hear you. We do have a second oral communication section in our meeting, so if you're able to continue to stay tuned in the meeting, we'll come back around and seek you out then.
Right, and none others that signed up, Madam Chair, are on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Clerk. Kevin Moss, appreciate it. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 23 items. 2 sets of minutes, May 26th and June 2nd of 2020, 3 items under Clean Water Services, 6 items under Land Use and Transportation, 1 item under Assessment and Taxation, 2 items under Health and Human Services, 1 item under Housing Services, 2 items under the Sheriff's Office, 3 items under Support Services, and 3 items under Service District for Lighting. What are the wishes of the Commission?
Move for approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve today's consent agenda. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next up is presentations. And I'd like to invite our Director of Health and Human Services, Marnie Kyle, up to give us an update on COVID-19.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board Commissioners. I think my presentation will be relatively short today, but I'm not necessarily bringing great data to you today. So if we can go to the next slide. So I wanted to start with the reopening criteria, and that is, actually, I updated that as of June 16th today. I missed the top number, though. So percent of positive tests, and that goal, we're looking for the trend to go down, and it's been pretty steady. There's no clear trend at this point. The percent of change in cases, the goal that was set by the state to open or to move into phase 2 is that it would be under 5%. And as you can see, we're just over 11%, and that has been trending up. And 24-hour contact tracing, the goal is 95% of new cases are investigated and contact tracing is started within 24 hours, and that we are at perfection, 100%. And that is really due to the hard work of public health and the new surge staff, which I'll give you an update on. And then percent of linked cases, the goal is that 70% of new cases would be linked to known cases. And again, this is going in the wrong direction and trending down. And currently we're at 35.8. And then the last of the reopening criteria is the average number of hospitalizations per day, and that number is stable for us. It's been 0 to 1 for several weeks now. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is the information you're used to seeing. This is the number of cases, and since the last report on the 15th, we've had 26 new cases, so overnight. So we're up to the cumulative number of cases, 917. Presumptive cases we're reporting now because remember, a presumptive case is somebody that has either tested yet and is a close contact to a confirmed case and has symptoms. And so we treat those just like a positive case. Hospitalizations, 146. 20 deaths, and one pediatric case with the severe multi-system failure. And then I'm starting to also share with you the current outbreaks. So we have 4 long-term care outbreaks that we're working, that are currently open, and then we have 5 we call them non-long-term care outbreaks, and those are outbreaks that are in oftentimes manufacturing, with our migrant or seasonal farm workers, so not in the healthcare or long-term care setting. And then the business outbreaks with 5 or more cases. And we pull those out separately because those are reported by OHA every week.
Can I ask a quick question on this? From your prior presentations, I recall that with long-term care facilities, once there's an outbreak, it has to be tracked for at least 2 weeks. Is that the case for all of these outbreaks?
Yes. So all outbreaks, they will often be on our books, if you will, for a couple of weeks because we wait until there's 2 incubation periods after the last new case to call it closed.
I have a quick question too, definitional. How would you define non-long-term care?
So non-long-term care is outbreaks in work settings that aren't long-term care or home-based long-term care. So they could be seasonal and migrant farm workers. They could be, my mind does not work pulling this up very quickly. It could also be manufacturing. It could be warehouse places like that. It can also be community-based congregate settings like group homes.
And then on the third category, business outbreaks greater or equal to 5, so that would be a subset then?
Yes, yes. It's a subset of the non-long-term care, yes.
And very specifically, non-long-term care setting in a business setting where the outbreak is greater or equal to 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we report that subset to you because those are the ones that are reported by OHA by name. So it's just to give you an idea each week of how many of our local businesses could be named. Okay, so next slide, please. So this is just to give you an idea of how we're doing and why we have the one measure that's perfect, our ability to do contact tracing and case investigation within 24 hours. So we have a total of 46 staff that are currently, I call them surge capacity staff because you've heard a lot about contact tracers, but just as a reminder, it starts with doing the case investigation and then the contact tracing, and then also we have staff that are supporting people that are in isolation or quarantine, and remember that can be a minimum of 2 weeks and can often last longer than that. And so that's a lot of support, monitoring, ensuring that they're able to meet their daily needs, that they have food, and that they're able to take care of themselves, assessment of any clinical problems that we need to help get them into their healthcare provider. So we also have 22 nurses and 5 epidemiologists. So the other thing, we talked a little bit about this. I didn't have updated stats, but you can see as of June 3rd, we're doing really well in making sure that the staff that we get are bilingual, bicultural, and really able to serve our community. So 63% as of June 3rd, and we've hired some since then. We're Spanish speaking. You can see many other languages as well. And they are all Washington County residents. I think the last time I looked, there was over almost 900 applicants. And so I think that they're doing a great job of filtering through, finding Washington County residents who represent our community. Okay, next slide. Okay, so phase 2. And I know you're getting a lot of communication. Folks are anxious to move from phase 1 into phase 2. As you heard, the governor did pause all counties from moving into the next phase. So Multnomah County is still at baseline. Counties that were in phase 1 are holding at phase 1. OHA runs their data each week on Wednesdays. And so our plan at this time, I think when I talked to you last week, the plan was to submit our request to move into phase 2 today. And we gave you a heads up on Friday that we're going to wait until Wednesday because that gives us an opportunity. We look at our data daily, but it gives us an opportunity to look at our data a few more days. And make a decision and a recommendation to our county administrative officer, Stephen Rhodes, on, I'm looking the wrong direction, but we'll make a recommendation to Stephen on Wednesday. And I do want to give you a heads up. As you saw, the data presented today, most of the prevalence data is not moving in the right direction. And so there is the potential that we would recommend waiting another week and following the data to see if those numbers start to go down. I think as we point out every week, we shared the information about our staffing and our ability to do case investigation quickly, to put control measures in place quickly, working with multiple businesses to control outbreaks, to put control measures in, infection control, get people to stay home. But we need the public's help. I'm saying public health. We need the public's help. We need the public. Just because you can go out into public doesn't mean that you have to. And if you don't need to be in large crowds, we would really suggest that you avoid large crowds to make sure that you are wearing your face covering when you are going out into public, hand washing, cleaning surfaces. We need the public's health to get these numbers to go in the right direction so that we can continue to move forward in our phased opening. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Commissioner Willie?
Wait, yeah, I'm just interested, if we've been able to identify any particular areas of our community, and I mean in the business sector or wherever else that where we're seeing these spikes, or is it just kind of general overall?
So I think recently we've had, part of it is we're doing a good job of contact tracing. And so we're finding people that are contacts and we're testing those people. So that certainly contributes to the increase in number. But I think that the one statistic that we follow is, are the cases connected? Are they linked to other cases? And when that number is when it's trending downward, what that tells us in general, and that could change in a week, but what it tells us in general is that there is community-wide spread. That it's not, we can't really point. We certainly have some outbreaks. We had several that we were able to close. So those numbers looked better today, even than yesterday. We have outbreaks. We have cases that are connected through family and friends. But we know because that number is going down, that there also is community-wide spread.
Couldn't that be because, though, also we have just now been gathering the data from the contact tracers, so we have better data and better analysis of all that? I mean, before, wasn't it, I don't know what the numbers were, the 70% number was, and where that came from, except for health, probably, but
yes.
I'm just wondering if we're refining and doing a much better job of tracking all of this, and maybe our initial estimates were wrong.
I think that's part of the pause, is so that we can better study that. But I also think that we have seen this spike as we have reopened, and that's happened nationally. And when most of your cases were staying home, they weren't out exposing other people. But now people are out and about, and so they are exposing more people. And so it is, I wish I could say that it wasn't related to reopening. And, we certainly, our epidemiologists are studying that. But reopening and people being out and about is certainly increasing exposures.
Well, and if traffic is any indicator,
Yes,
you definitely have more
Yes.
people out and about.
yes.
Commissioner Rogers?
I should have asked you this before the meeting, so you would have had a chance to respond. In any crisis of any sort, you get people who are less than honorable about some of the things that they do. And there's scams going on right now in which people are reporting themselves to be contact tracers. I know the Sheriff's Department probably is dealing with this as well. But how would you advise those citizens of Washington County to be on the alert for people who are less than honest, trying to gather personal information to scam them? What are you doing, and what is your staff and these 46 people doing to identify themselves, so we can feel confident that we're really talking to somebody that's authorized?
Yes. So what we are trying to get out the information about the scam that's been going on, both at the county level on Facebook posts and Nextdoor apps, and through all of our social media and our regular media. So that's one is, and this, I'm glad that you brought that up because it's really important for people to hear. Our contact tracers will call people. They'll identify themselves as Washington County employees working on this COVID as contact tracers or nurses. They will never ask for Social Security, and we do ask for financial information to evaluate whether we need to assist people, but we do not ask for credit cards. We never ask for bank accounts. We never ask for, any kind of financial information that would be used for purchasing something or identifying a bank account. But number one is they're calling on the phone. We're not sending out emails until we've made a contact, and then if the person prefers to communicate through email or text, we may follow up that way, but it is all done on the phone.
Thank you. Just tell people to be cautious.
Yes.
Scams are out there. Yeah.
Yes, and if they're concerned, they don't have to provide information, and they can call our office and get connected if they're really concerned and uncertain. But they don't need to provide bank accounts and social security numbers. We would not ask for that.
Any other commissioner comments or questions?
I will see you at work session.
Thank you
quickly
very
just
much
check.
to you and your team for doing all this great work. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it. Next, as announced, I'm going to make a brief statement with regard to Juneteenth. Juneteenth is celebrated throughout the Black community every year on June 19th. This is the date that Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas in 1865 to share the news that the war, that's the Civil War, was over and that slavery had been ended. The Emancipation Proclamation had been signed more than 2 years before the arrival of these troops with their message. As we continue to see our country roiling in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd and so many other Black and brown men and women, it seems appropriate to take a moment to acknowledge this day. Rather than looking back at the origins of this celebration, today I challenge us to look at how we move forward, move ahead. As elected leaders, we hold a unique position of power. And as I challenge myself, I also want to challenge my colleagues here and throughout Oregon to consider what role we can play to bring positive and authentic opportunities for change to our communities of color. I am committing to engaging in our community in a conversation about body-worn cameras, as I've learned that not all communities of color have the same concerns about this policing method. And I want to further commit to welcoming and working with our new Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer as they are hired and begin the hard work of helping us do better. For those listening or watching today, please help me be better at engaging directly with you as I work to understand my privilege and my whiteness and honor your experiences. Happy Juneteenth to all of you who celebrate. And let's keep doing this hard work of making Washington County a better place and a more welcoming place for everyone. Thank you.
I might suggest at some point that we substitute the singular with a plural. That this would be board statements rather than simply a statement by one individual commissioner, because however well-intentioned, one commissioner doesn't have the kind of impact force that a majority of the board would have.
Yep.
So I'm not sure what the exact process would be, but I would like to see the board collectively beyond that and substitute singular for plural, as I said a moment ago.
And I would support that as well.
Commissioners?
Yes, I would support that.
Great. We'll move forward then with this as a board statement.
And thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next we'll move on to boards and commissions. The first item and the only item under Section 4 is to appoint a member to the Washington County Fair Board. We don't usually have staff reports, but I wanted to check to see if we had one. Okay, seeing none, do commissioners have any comments?
Madam Chair, I move that we appoint Ajoy Nevin Chakrapani to the Fair Board for a term through December 31st, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I have a comment, but before I comment, do any other commissioners have any comments? Okay, so I'll go. These are my comments. The Fair Board positions are defined by the state of Oregon. Oregon revised statutes, what we know of as ORS 565.210, consisting of not less than 3, no more than 7 members. The use of the range of positions and appointment of community members is decided upon the Board of Commissioners. We have a 7-member Fair Board. Fair Board members may serve no more than 2 consecutive complete terms unless otherwise approved by the Board of Commissioners. I am fully aware that many in our rich Washington County rural agriculture-based community feel disenfranchised from the current Washington County Fair, and specifically the current Fair Board membership. This board discussed the need for more agricultural representation at the December 19, 2019 work session. Applications were further discussed at our May 19th and June 2nd work sessions, and you can see the packet. At that time, we needed more applicants back in December. We're now blessed with multiple good applicants. The community member being recommended today, Ajoy Naveen Chakrapani, brings vendor experience, multicultural experience, first Lego League experience, as well as urban experience. This is all good and needed on the Fair Board. Unfortunately, this does not address the need for improved agriculture representation. I was hoping to expand the table and also appoint Mitch Nussbaumer. My efforts on this right now are stymied, not by this commission, but by the Oregon statute and the current Fair Board composition tenures. Timing is everything. Thank you to both of you as premier applicants. If any existing Fair Board member is inclined to not seek reappointment or to make room or needs to resign, please know that there is a very capable, dedicated, passionate, well-thought-of individual at the ready. Many wrote personal messages to this board, our Board of Commissioners, about Mitch Nussbauer, about your love for the fair, the need to rebuild trust, about how agriculture plays a vital role in growth and development of Washington County in the decades and centuries ahead, and that this is important that agricultural pursuits are represented at the county fair. I would like to thank all of you who spoke up, exercised your voice to address this need for further improved agriculture representation, including Kimberly Adler, Robin Bagenstos, Casey Bergstrom, Brian Bowman, Melody Bowman, Kelly Bauscher, Allison Brandt, Teresa and Gary Brandt, Matt Brennan, Kayla Kosman, Jessica Dearden, Dale Evers, Lori Evers, Nayoko Evers, Amy Frank, Pam and Spencer Gase, Inez Griffles, Dave Grossen, Gail Grossen, Sheila Harris, Kelly and Dave Herring, Jackie Jones, Shannon Kennedy, Brandy Marsh, Judy Marsh, Kim McDonald, Tracy Mayer, Tracy Nelson, Leah Nussbauer, Lisa Pearson, Walt Punkachor, John Redding, Catherine Scotch, Margie Shaw of Enterprise, Oregon, Lindsay Schimmel, Lyle Speechart, Sandy Twig, Dave Van Ash, Crystal Vander Zanden, Tad Vander Zanden, Troy Van Roek, Nick Weil, Bill Zander, and Annalisa Zander. Any other commissioner comments?
Yeah, I do have a comment. That whole dissertation, quite frankly, offended me because it's inappropriate. We've never done that with any other board, even though maybe we wanted someone else on there that was going to be approved. We've never made that comment. We've always communicated to the people that are making that decision what our preference is, but we've never done that, and especially read into the record every person that had written a letter of recommendation. So I would like to try and minimize the political aspect of what you just did, and let's try and keep it above the line. The Fair Board knows what the Fair Board needs, and the Fair Board made the recommendation. And so that should be the end of it. I appreciate your comments, and I certainly appreciate your input prior to this, but this is not a public format for that.
Well, certainly I disagree with you, Commissioner Willie. This is a public meeting. We are 5 independently elected officials. The Fair Board does make a recommendation, but it is our decision to appoint. So,
I
So
call for
be
the
it.
question.
thank you, Commissioner Rogers. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to item 6B, to approve the addition of body-worn cameras program in the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget as an adjustment. Would commissioners like a staff report on this? Commissioner Treese has indicated she'd
Yes.
like.
Yes.
So coming up
Yes.
to the table is Aaron Calvert, our Deputy County Administrator for all things public safety and justice.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Harrington and Board of Commissioners. Last Tuesday on June 9th, at the work session, you heard a proposal on funding for the body-worn cameras from Sheriff Garrett, Jack Liang, and myself. After Chair Harrington's inquiry on the expansion and full deployment of body-worn cameras, you heard us talk about deployment for the 204 FTE, which was broken down between deputies, corporals, and civil deputies, which would be included in the cost. The total cost for the full deployment is $1,372,230. And working with the current vendor, we talked with you about making 5 equal annual payments of $274,446. This proposal included the appropriating monies from the general fund, but we also gave you a commitment to continue working toward additional funding through grants or other means. What I think I heard you say at this morning's work session is that you are potentially still interested in appropriating funding, but you may want to slow down in the first quarter just to have more community conversations and dialogue about that. Before moving the program forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I just want to make sure I capture this morning's conversation among you as well.
So our motion would embody that we're appropriating the funds as we've discussed, but that the full approval of funding would happen no later than the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year.
Correct.
So it would be date certain, just to ensure that we have the time to touch bases with all of our local community-based partners that serve our historically disadvantaged community members.
Correct.
My only comment, which I've made consistently, is I still am concerned about the angles, still concerned that there are problems with body cameras. I'll support it, but I think we have to walk a very clear and tight line and seek county council direction as we start to employ this technology. So.
Understood.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I make a suggestion on the motion? It should be to appropriate the funds and require authorization for the expenditure of the funds.
Great.
Looking for a motion, I so move.
We have a motion and we have a second. Are there any other commissioner comments?
And I assume the motion, as amended, per the suggestion of our Chief Administrative Officer.
Yep. Okay. Seeing no other commissioner comments, I have one. We've had far too many deaths by force in our country. Monday, May 25th, George Floyd was killed. That was 3 weeks ago. The following week, Tuesday, June 2nd, this board issued a statement on the death of George Floyd and the need for racial justice. Days later, I requested information from our staff about how we might fund body-worn cameras across our full patrol unit of the Washington County Sheriff's Department under the budget we approve. As we've heard, there are 204 individuals who provide patrol to the rural and urban unincorporated areas of Washington County, the areas outside of cities. Last Tuesday in our work session, June 9th, we reviewed a proposal for body-worn cameras. The board discussed it and gave thumbs-up approval to the board budget request moving forward. In this very short duration of time, community input was limited. I've heard a mixture of thoughts by historically disadvantaged community members here in Washington County, and also heard clearly that further engagement about this would be useful. As such, I really appreciate the board motion to move forward with appropriating the funding with a provision to come back with the appropriate expenditure before the end of the fiscal year, quarter one. That would be the end of September. Thank you, colleagues. I really appreciate it. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move to the public hearing section of our agenda today. We have quite a few public hearings, 10 in total. The first 6 are for the Washington County budget as well as the various component budgets, including the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District, the North Bethany Community Service District, the Service District for Lighting, and the Urban Road Maintenance District. We'll first be starting, though, with a public hearing regarding adjustments to the current fiscal year 1920, because we have to make changes that are greater than 10% in nature. So first, we'll start with a staff report from our Director of Support Services, as well as our Chief Financial Officer, Jack Leong.
Thank you very much, Chair Harrington. And the first public hearing item I'm presenting is, as you described, fiscal year 2019-20 supplemental budget over 10%. The Oregon budget law allows for the modification of the adopted budget through the supplemental budget process. The process is used to appropriate additional funding, transfer resources and appropriations between funds, establish new funds, and create new appropriation categories within funds. Today's agenda is the last supplemental budget before fiscal year 2019-20 year end, and this supplemental budget includes one item, an additional appropriation for Organization Unit 100-7030 Public Health for a total of $4,447,500. This amount is entirely due to additional anticipated revenues as listed in the agenda summary. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the supplemental budget. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Is there anyone who signed up?
Chair Harrington, we have no one signed up on this public hearing.
Okay. Is there anyone in the room? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2019-20. Set out in agenda item 5A.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving this resolution in order, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we'll move on to adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 Washington County budget and make appropriations and levy taxes. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. Again, Jack Leong, Director of Support Services and Chief Financial Officer. This next agenda I'm presenting today is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 Washington County budget. The fiscal year 2020-21 proposed budget was presented at the Budget Committee meeting on May 14th and approved by the Budget Committee on May 27th. This item includes a number of adjustments after budget committee approval. The total adjustments is $116,727,069. Of this total, $5,936,135 is due to additional anticipated revenues, and the remaining $110,790,934 is from updated estimates on beginning fund balances for fiscal year 2020-21. It is worth noting of this amount, fund balance carry forward $104,660,475 was from Fund 155 COVID-19 CARES Act Fund, where we appropriated the entire amount in fiscal year 2019-20, but also anticipated to carry forward the majority of it into fiscal year 2020-21. The remaining $6,130,459 is from various funds and organization units updated year-end estimates being carried forward to fiscal year 2021. With the adjustments, the total appropriation for the fiscal year 2021 is $1,482,851,813 after adjustments. The adjustment also include adding 23 FTEs in Fund 155 COVID-19 CARES Act Fund that is related with public health's ongoing COVID-19 response operations. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 Washington County budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes. I will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Commissioner Treese has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Liang. In light of the number of requests that we've had to review our budget, especially around the sheriff's office and any type of policing, what type of flexibility will we have moving forward to relook at this? Could you please expound on that?
Absolutely. So as you are well aware that our budget have supplemental operations going into the year, so it's definitely not a one-time a year type of operations. And as we continue to proceed with county operations, financial operations specifically, we have regularly three scheduled opportunities for supplemental budget and for us to reevaluate county priorities and then reflect that in the budget of the county. And that we're not limited to only three opportunities. So we can definitely have ongoing discussions about ongoing amendment in the supplemental budget process.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that flexibility was entered into the record.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner comments at this time before the public hearing? Seeing none, we're going to open a public hearing.
Madam Chair, we have Brian Decker to provide public testimony, so let me promote him.
Brian, can you hear us?
Oops, wrong one.
Oops, hang on.
Hello, this is Brian Decker. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I am a Beaverton resident and I work at Metropolitan Public Defender in downtown Hillsborough, representing poor people from across the county in court. I urge the board to reject this budget for a simple reason. It increases spending on policing and prosecution by approximately $7.2 million while cutting overall spending by 5%. This redoubled commitment to police and the criminal courts as the solution to social problems directly contradicts the realities we are now facing during this time of national reckoning with the negative effects of over-policing on communities of color. I am a former federal prosecutor and I understand the core role of the criminal justice system, but we have been relying too heavily on policing and the blunt threat of prison to solve problems like addiction, mental illness, and homelessness. The county would be better served by dramatically cutting the police and prosecution budget and reallocating funds to aid our community members through housing assistance or mental health services, the latter of which this budget cuts by 7%. These can be addressed more cheaply and more effectively through early intervention rather than waiting for arrests on the back end. The proposed budget throws good money after bad. For instance, it expands the district attorney's advertising budget to $14,000 from last year's $4,000. 3 years ago, the DA's advertising budget totaled $62. The budget adds an additional $1.5 million from the general fund to fill our Washington County Jail at a time when a decreased jail population is necessary to mitigate the risks of COVID-19 in a crowded space. Washington County Sheriff's deputies are wasting money on pretext stops, using a guise of a traffic stop to call in an additional car and run a drug sniff dog around the car in a way that a recent study showed disproportionately harasses Latinx folks here in Washington County. Salaries for DAs in Washington County are twice the salaries for their counterparts on the public defense side, margin that is a huge outlier compared to the rest of the country. The reason a mid-career DA here makes $129,000 compared to $69,000 for a public defender like me is that the state pays us, whereas this body budgets DAs, and you're simply giving them too much money. As a Washington County taxpayer, I no longer wish for this budgetary addiction to policing and prosecution to continue in my name, and I hope that this board will say the same. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Deckert. There isn't any yielding of time, but we appreciate that you got all of your comments in within 3 minutes.
So, Madam Chair, that concludes the only public testimony on this public hearing.
All right. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to testify on behalf of this budget? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Are there any commissioner comments?
I'd move that we, are we ready for a motion?
I'd like to make a comment, but I
okay.
can do it after we have a motion and a second as well.
Sure. Make the motion, we adopt the budget, make the appropriation, and levy the taxes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Apparently, we have some additional.
No, Madam Chair, that is for public hearing 5E.
Okay,
I just was trying
so
to get to you in
that's for a
advance.
later item. All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. I would like to just share some comments before voting on this budget. I'd like to share what I'm proud of with this fiscal year budget. We had our first ever budget listening tour at the front end of this process. Members of our community participated. This budget incorporated feedback from the budget listening tours. I mean, we got information on road and transportation improvements, affordable housing, homelessness. We also provided board budget priorities through a public meeting into the budget formation. We adopted and operationalized through this budget our equity and inclusion program. We increased transparency in many ways, including through the work of our multiple departments. We responded to the public health crisis that has hit our community all across the agency, in literally every single department of this agency. We've had the most public process ever, with our various budget committee meetings being broadcast over YouTube, as well as having Zoom attendance. That's the first time we've done something like that. And we had multilingual experience as well. And I would also like to recognize Melissa Laird, one of our budget committee members here who's joined us physically at our meeting today, and we may have other budget committee members who are watching via our electronic means. We are well positioned through the CAO and CFO leadership to navigate the budget adjustments as we continue to move ahead through these changing times and this COVID recession. I think this board and our staff have a lot to be proud of with this budget. I also want to thank staff from every single department. You are stewards of the public trust and financial resources through budget development and your everyday work. You have helped us be thoughtful in our decision-making because of your best work. I particularly want to call out Sia Lindstrom, Jack Leong, and all of our department heads as they made adjustments this fiscal year with some of these new practices. But that thank you also extends to every member of our staff in every department for being sure that we understand the strategic plans that you've been operating under, that we have the opportunity to weigh in on the pros and cons with regard to our investment decisions. Thank you also to our interim chief administrative officer. Sorry, I was trying to make sure I didn't use an acronym there for this work as well. Are there any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to adopt the fiscal year 2021 approved budget and approve the resolution and order adopting the budget, making appropriations, and levying taxes. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Next, we move on to a component budget, the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District. Staff report.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. This next agenda is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2021 Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget was presented at the Budget Committee meeting on May and approved by the 27th. There's one adjustment after Budget Committee approval. The adjustment is an increase of appropriation in the amount of $580,595 due to updated beginning fund balance estimate for the same amount. The total appropriation after adjustment is $48,174,813. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2021 Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes. I will be happy to answer any of your questions.
Before the public hearing, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll open a public hearing on the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District budget. To our
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone signed up to testify on this public hearing.
Is there anyone in the room who wishes to testify in this public hearing? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any commissioner comments?
I think the only comment I'd like to make is that we all have the opportunity to get smarter as we move along and through our work. I feel very confident that this budget, as well as the larger budget that we just approved, working forward with our community members, in this case with the sheriff, the district attorney, and our board, that I have confidence in our leadership, and I'm also confident that if necessary and where we think appropriate, that we will make further revisions or tweaks as the year goes on. I think we've got a good leadership team here, and I look forward to this board and senior staff people, including sheriff, working well with the community and doing something that we can all be collectively proud of. Thank you. I move that we approve the resolution in order approving the budget, making appropriations and levying taxes for the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District for fiscal year 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And next, we'll move on to the North Bethany County Service District for Roads. Staff report first.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. As you are aware, North Bethany County Service District for Road is another service district within the county, special district within the county, and the next agenda is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2021 North Bethany County Service District for Road roads budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget was presented at the Budget Committee meeting on May 12th and approved by the Budget Committee on May 27th. This agenda reflects the approved budget with no adjustment. The total appropriation is $10,864,007. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2021 North Bethany County Service District for roads budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes. I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Are there any commissioner questions at this time? Seeing none, I'm going to open a public hearing on the North Bethany County Service District for roads. Mr. Clerk.
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone on Zoom to comment on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Is there anyone in the room wishing to testify? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any commissioner comments? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Move for the requested action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and order adopting the budget and making appropriations and levying taxes. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. And next, we'll move on to the Service District for Lighting number 1.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. This next agenda is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2021 Service District for Lighting number 1 budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget was presented at the Budget Committee meeting on May 14th and approved by the Budget Committee on May 27th. This agenda reflects the approved budget with no adjustment. The total appropriation is $3,099,911. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2021 Service District for Lighting number 1 budget and make appropriations. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions today? Seeing none, I'm going to open a public hearing on the Service District for Lighting number 1 budget. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
We do not, Madam Chair, but this is the item where I provided you the public written testimony from Mr. Crest.
Yes, so I'd like to add to the record that we have some written testimony regarding lighting from the Kress family as submitted by Matthew Kress. Okay. Seeing no further testimony, I'd like to close today's public hearing. Are there any commissioner comments?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to have some response to this, maybe not today because we just got this, but just a follow-up on the comment that was made by Mr. Kress.
Mr. Rhodes, can you make sure that we have some follow-up, at least for Commissioner Willie, in a future meeting on this item?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Is that satisfactory?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Our HOA dealt with the same issues. We had converted some of our lights to LED lights, and they were too bright and the wrong kind of structure, so we had to redo them, and that sounds like what he's asking here too. So yeah, that's fine.
Okay. What are the wishes of the commission?
Once again, I would move that we approve the Service District for Lighting number 1 for the fiscal year 2021 budget and make appropriations.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the resolution in order and the motion as expressed, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. So now we'll move on to the last financial related item for the budget year, and that is the Urban Road Maintenance District.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. This next agenda is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2021 Urban Road Maintenance District budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget was presented at the Budget Committee meeting on May 12th and approved by the Budget Committee on May 27th. This agenda reflects the approved budget with no adjustment. The total appropriation is $17,624,935. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 Urban Road Maintenance District budget, make appropriations, and levy taxes. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from commissioners at this time? Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing on the Urban Road Maintenance District budget. To our board clerk, Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to testify this time? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any commissioner comments? What are the wishes of the commission?
Move approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and order adopting the budget, making appropriations, and levying taxes. All those in favor of the motion, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Well, that's the first 6. Next, we'll move on to another public hearing, and this one related to support services to adopt the fee schedule for fiscal year 2020-2021. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. This next agenda is for your board's consideration in adopting the fiscal year 2020-21 Washington County fee schedule. The proposed fee schedule is reviewed at the board work session on June 2nd. During the work session, your board provided guidance to modify selected Department of Land Use and Transportation fees to an increase of 50% of the proposed increase effective July 1st, 2020, and increase the remaining 50% effective January 1st, 2021. The proposed fee schedule draft included with this agenda reflect this modification. On June 10th, 2020, your board received a memo from Stephen Roberts, Director of Land Use and Transportation, providing additional information on impact of the fee increases in the Department of Land Use and Transportation. This memo is also included in this agenda for your consideration. I recommend your board to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting the fiscal year 2021 Washington County fee schedule, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to a public hearing. I'm going to open a public hearing. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. Ezra Hammer, who I will do right now.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Commissioners. Ezra Hammer with the Home Builders Association of Metropolitan Portland. It's a pleasure to see all of you today, and thank you for continuing your diligent work during these unique and challenging times. We understand that you're grappling with many difficult issues, and we truly appreciate all of your dedication to the citizens of Washington County. I want to thank the board for considering a proposal brought forward by Commissioner Willie at your previous work session, specifically around the targeted phase-in of fee increases for land use and transportation permits and applications. While we recognize the critically important role that LUT plays in ensuring that new housing can be brought to bear in the county, we want to also highlight the fact that the residential construction industry, like so many industries, is facing severe pressure and difficulties due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I just want to highlight several numbers for the board to consider as you discuss this item. Over March, April, and May of this year, as compared with March, April, and May of 2019, we saw a 70% decrease in the issuance of permits for residential units throughout the entirety of Washington County. We saw a corresponding 50% decrease in unincorporated Washington County, meaning that only half the amount of housing that was started for construction last year is beginning this year. And obviously, this will have significant knock-on effects moving forward as that housing comes to market, and unfortunately cause an ever-increasing issues around housing affordability due to the overall decrease in housing stock. So while we recognize that the county has many considerations, we appreciate you considering a phased-in approach for these fees. Doing so will help lift some of the burden that the residential construction industry is facing, and will help that industry move forward and be able to bring to bear the critically needed housing that Washington County residents so desperately need. Thank you for your time and for considering this proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Moss, is there anyone else?
There is not, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone in the room who wishes to testify? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Are there any?
May I ask a question? I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't.
no,
Okay.
right ahead.
So just to make sure I understand, the fee schedule that we're getting ready to adopt does reflect the 2.5 and 2.5?
Correct.
Not the 5. Okay, I just want to make sure that. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or commissioner comments? I have a comment. So I think we have two memos related to this topic, one of May 15th and a second of June 10th. I think the memo of May 15th makes a clear case for the full fee proposal. As we've discussed it, there was a concern that perhaps implementing the full fee proposal might seem to some that we're tone deaf. I don't think we're tone deaf at all, quite the opposite. I think it's really a question of should we provide more subsidies for commercial and residential development. I think the memo lays out clearly how the county has gone about a multi-year phased-in approach for cost recovery. As such, I'm going to be voting no on adopting this new proposal. Are there any other commissioner comments? Nope. Do we have a motion for today's agenda to adopt the fiscal year 2020-2021 fee schedule?
Motion to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye. Oops, I didn't mean to vote yes, sorry. Have it. Any opposed? Aye. The motion carries unanimously 4-1. Oh, I did it again. See, force of habit. So rarely. The motion passes on a vote of 4-1. Thank you very much, Commissioner Scout, and I appreciate that. Faux pas on my part. All right, so we've gotten through 7 of 10. Next, we'll move on. We're in the home stretch. We have 3 more. The next 2 are from Land Use and Transportation. The first is a public hearing to consider the annexation of 1 tax lot and right-of-way on Southwest Shoals Ferry Road, totaling approximately 10 acres, to the Clean Water Services District. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Do we have Brian Robb and Teresa Cherniak?
We do.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask Brian to give us a quick staff report, and this will actually cover the 2 different annexations, and then you can hold your hearings separately on that.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, members of the board. I'm Brian Robb, Associate Planner with Community Planning. The annexations before you today, case files number 20-004 and 20-005, are requests by Wish Camper Development Partners to annex approximately 10 acres and right-of-way on the north side of Southwest Shoals Ferry Road, approximately 1,650 feet west of Southwest 175th Avenue, into both Clean Water Services and Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. Based on the facts and findings in the June 1st staff reports, staff recommends that the board adopt the resolutions and orders approving these annexations, with the approvals becoming effective immediately. If there are any public testimony provided today other than by the applicant, there's a brief statement I'll need to read into the record. With that, I'll conclude my staff report and can answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, are there any questions? There are no questions, Brian. Seeing none, we'll conduct a public hearing. I've opened a public hearing. Mr. Moss, is there anyone wishing to testify on this first public hearing? And this is the one to annex into the Clean Water Services District.
There is not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the room? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move for the recommended action.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution and order approving the annexation with the approval becoming effective immediately and to authorize the chair to sign the resolution and order, excuse me, for Service District Annexation Record 20-004. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Got it right that time. Next, we'll move on to a related matter. This is the public hearing and the annexation effort to annex that same property that we just got a staff report for to the Tualatin Hills Park and Recreation District. We've already gotten the staff report. Are there any commissioner questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing. I'm going to open a public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up?
We do not, Madam Chair.
We have no one signed up to testify in this public hearing. Is there anyone in the room? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any commissioner comments or motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the resolution order approving the annexation with the approval becoming effective immediately and authorizing the chair to sign the resolution order for Service District annexation into the Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District per agenda item 5I.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the motion, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. Phew. And now we're back to our final public hearing of the day for the Service District for Lighting.
Is this a public hearing or just an action item?
It's a public hearing,
Okay, thank
according
you.
to everything.
Yep. So I've got Stacia Sheeler is joining us. She's our management analyst that manages the Service District for Lighting program, and she'll do the staff report.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Today's public hearing is being held to approve changes and establish a new maximum annual assessment for the coming fiscal year. The SDL ordinance requires the county hold a public hearing to amend existing assessment areas. Each year, various changes occur, including partial annexations, lot consolidations and partitions, equipment changes, formations, simple errors and omissions, and maximum annual adjustments. The maximum annual assessments are set at double the annual assessment in order to establish a ceiling for future years. There are 11 assessment areas affected by various changes for fiscal year 2021. These changes are made prior to the end of the current fiscal year, so they may be certified to the tax rolls for collection. Over 3,000 property owners in the affected assessment areas were notified by mail the week of May 25th, 2020 of today's public hearing. Staff did not receive any inquiries regarding the notifications. Following the public hearing, staff recommends approval of all changes and the establishment of new maximum annual assessments. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your consideration.
Commissioners, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open a public hearing for the Service District for Lighting number 1.
Right.
Set at double the annual assessment in order to establish.
Gail, can you hear
Yes.
me? So
Yes.
you are on for the commissioners for this public hearing now.
Year 2021. These changes are made prior to the end of the current
Gail?
fiscal year. They may be
Yeah.
certified.
Gail, can you mute your YouTube?
3,000 property owners in the affected assessment areas were notified by mail the week of May 2020 of today's public hearing. Staff did not receive.
Gail, I just muted you. Can you mute your YouTube and then I'll unmute you? Gail, can you unmute? Gail, can you hear us? Apology for the technical difficulty, commissioners. We seem to be unable to get them unmuted.
So I think what has happened is we had a community member who was watching the meeting on their computer via YouTube versus Zoom, and in order for us to take public comment, you have to participate via Zoom. I think that's been the technical difficulty here. So we have lost the connection. You said the person's name was Gail?
Yes, so it is Gail Parker. She's calling out her husband's name. So.
So to our county council, what do we do at this point?
Madam Chair, members of the board, have you received any written testimony from her?
We have not. This was a previous thing. The Crest one was, I was notified by staff that it was related to this item and not item G, F.
Okay, so earlier we mentioned written testimony from Matthew Kress, and we mentioned that incorrectly. We've been given the written testimony. It was marked as item 5E, but I now stand corrected. It relates to item 5G. It looks like we have Gail Parker back on the line via YouTube. We're just asking that in your YouTube window that you mute that audio. And we do still have the public hearing open. So Mr. Moss is trying to call on you, Gail, to have you provide your testimony. So when you're ready, please go. Mentioned written testimony from Matthew Kress, and we mentioned that incorrectly. We've been given the written testimony. It was marked as item 5E, but I now stand corrected. It relates to item 5G. It looks like we have Gail Parker. This is Gail Parker on the line via YouTube.
Gail, can you just minimize your YouTube or just end the YouTube, because we can hear you, but we're still hearing your YouTube in the background.
It'd be fine to, okay. How do I get out? Should I get out of Zoom or should I get out of YouTube?
Get out of YouTube.
Is trying to call on you. Let's just all be quiet for a couple minutes, and then once everything is silent, then you can testify. Mentioned written testimony from Matthew Kress, and we mentioned that incorrectly. We've been given the written testimony. It was marked as item 5E, but I now. Hello, it's Gail Parker.
Gail, can you hear us? Are you there, Gail?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. Sorry about that. This Zoom and YouTube is a bit much. Well, good morning, commissioners and Chair Harrington. I'm Gail Parker, Deer Hill Subdivision, and I have appeared before you previously. But today I wish to express our concern that street lighting did not take into consideration our specific area. Well, we had a mistake that resulted in turning light into brighter than day for several nights. That was fixed. However, the light is still too bright. I know that you're discussing the budget regarding the lighting districts and that my testimony is not specifically relevant to that budget, but it is relevant to lighting policy. Why I take all our time now is to draw your attention to what we have learned and experienced, that lighting should take into account, but it doesn't, what is appropriate for the area. It should not be a one-size-fits-all. There needs to be flexibility as to the impact it has on the area it is installed. And the residents, citizens, and voters should have some ability to have their needs and concerns addressed. Locally, our neighbors, more than us, are negatively impacted, and that's every night. The new street light illuminates their kitchens, living rooms, and bedrooms. Their enjoyment of their property has been reduced by that light, and all we can be is apologetic. With respect to policy, as a state committed to energy conservation, Bright lights use more light. Yes, the LEDs are energy efficient, but they are inconsistent with Oregon goals and philosophy to lessen electric use. The lights burn from dusk to dawn. Finally, ecologically, bright lights all night long interfere with migrating bird patterns. The United Church of Christ on Cedar Hills Boulevard lowers its lightings during spring and fall migration. I will submit with this testimony the report that the Audubon Society has regarding lighting and its effect on migratory birds. It's my hope that you will see that these issues need to be folded into Washington County's policies regarding streetlights. And we would request that our existing streetlight be modified such as it is. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I conclude my testimony.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Parker, for hanging in there with us with regard to technology. Is there anyone who's wishing to testify?
There's no one else, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I would just like to acknowledge that we have not only the verbal testimony from Gail Parker, but the written testimony from Matthew Kress, which has been provided for us today. And with that, I'd like to close today's public hearing. Are there any additional questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, what are the wishes of the commission?
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and order to establish the new maximum annual assessments for the service district for lighting number 1 for fiscal year 2020-2021. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. So that is it for all of the public hearings for today. We have one additional action item, and this relates to the adoption of the fiscal year 2020-2021 Road Maintenance District Program. Staff report, please.
Good morning, Chair Harrington. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Watkins. Thank you.
Commissioners, Todd Watkins, and I manage the county's Road and Bridge Operations Division with LUT, and I'll just go over our upcoming work program. So I'm pleased to present the 2020-2021 Road Maintenance Program, which is the Department of Land Use and Transportation's annual plan for maintaining the countywide network of transportation infrastructure. The county oversees a complex system of assets which include features such as pavements, bridges, culverts, and traffic control devices. We actively manage our assets, performing regular inspections and routine maintenance to ensure their performance and to preserve their effectiveness. Some program highlights for this year include replacing 4 major culverts, maintaining 90,000 square feet of bridge decks on 15 structures, seal coating 133 road segments inside the Urban Road Maintenance District, and sweeping over 250 miles of urban and rural bike lanes, widening shoulders, and repairing management areas. We recognize that unplanned events and circumstances will come up during the course of the year, so we reserve a portion of our workforce capacity to handle these unexpected events. For example, we regularly handle several thousand requests for service per year for issues such as potholes, traffic signal timing, or plugged drainage culverts. We maintain 24/7 readiness with standby crews available to respond to after-hour emergencies, weather-related events, and anything else that impacts our transportation infrastructure. Additionally, the county provides road maintenance services to the Urban Road Maintenance District. We work cooperatively with Clean Water Services for managing roadside urban stormwater, and we work together with a variety of other public agencies to maximize the use of public resources across the region. Our work is not performed in a vacuum. We have a number of methods for the public to engage us, and we welcome requests for service, questions about our network, and comments about our work. Additionally, we work and support 2 board-appointed advisory committees, the Urban Road Maintenance District Advisory Committee and the Rural Roads Operations and Maintenance Advisory Committee. Both of those groups meet on a regular basis, and we work on a variety of projects and initiatives to support LUT's road maintenance mission. Ultimately, our goal is to apply the right resource at the right time to provide the highest level of service for the best value. We do have copies, hard copies of our road maintenance program, which are available to you. We have a few copies today. I can bring more if necessary, but also we have this available online with an easy-to-use color flip book, and that's a great way you can see that anytime at your convenience. So with that, I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I think I just want sort of the record to show that we've had very extensive discussions and briefings on all of this, and it's a great program, and in no way trying to be disrespectful. But we've covered this ground pretty well, so I think, at least for myself, my questions have been answered.
Thank you.
Thank you for the program. Thank you for dealing with questions and concerns that were raised earlier in the hearing process.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to comment too on the Rural Roads Committee. There's a dedicated group of people on that committee that actually enjoy being there, talking about the size of gravel in every pothole in the county, and literally they enjoy the donuts, I think, probably as much. But anyway, Todd, you're doing
When we had donuts, Commissioner, there's no more donuts right now.
Well, when there was donuts, there was donuts, okay? So now we have our own. You have to buy your own. But and then Joe, I see Joe's not here, but both you and Joe do a great job of leading that committee and having those discussions. And so, yeah, it's a great program. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and I do want to say it is a collaboration. We work internally with our different divisions, our capital project group, our planning group, but also our partners across the region. I mentioned Clean Water Services, but we work with the cities, we work with the special districts such as THPRD and TBWD, and it really is a group effort because no one can do this by themselves. We're all in this together.
Yes, and even though it's 2020, we haven't quite figured out how to deliver virtual donuts yet.
No.
Thank you to you for all the great work that you do for maintaining the public's assets in our transportation system and making sure that everyone has the opportunity to get to their destinations safely each and every day. So what are the wishes of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution and order adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 road maintenance program. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Whew, that's it for all of our public hearings and action items for today. The next item on our agenda is oral communication. Mr. Board Clerk, do we have anyone signed up or any of the 2 folks who'd signed up previously that we weren't able to get in touch with?
Yes, Madam Chair, so we will continue with the ones from the beginning. So we will start with Michael Sorensen, and I'll promote him right now.
Hello there,
Good
Mr.
morning.
Sorensen. Can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Sorensen. I am the Director of Business Development at Cedar Hills Hospital, and I had the pleasure of speaking to you once earlier about COVID and CARES funding, but thank you for having me again. I submitted a presentation that speaks about a proposed hospital that would be built in Wilsonville. This is an opportunity for me to, one, get information in front of you, but 2, to let you know that I am working with staff to answer questions about what the new hospital would include and how it would impact the local access issues as it relates to acute care for psychiatric treatment and substance abuse treatment. Just a couple of points. Cedar Hills Hospital has been around since 2009, and we are lucky to be in the Cedar Hills neighborhood and in Washington County. Larger than that, though, we're a part of 350 hospitals across the United States, Puerto Rico, and the UK. With that comes quite a bit of knowledge, experience, and expertise that we can bring to bear here in Oregon, and specifically around behavioral health and quality behavioral health services. Cedar Hills Hospital is the only UHS hospital in our state, but the second hospital that's proposed would be also in Washington County, down right on the line between Washington and Clackamas County and Wilsonville. Our proposal is to build a 100-bed hospital with external funds. So it's a $40 million project that is actually shovel ready today that would provide 300 jobs once built and once up to capacity. But those jobs would be split between a hospital and an outpatient treatment program. Many of you have probably already heard about the mental health struggles that we have in our state, and in some studies rank us at 47th with regard to access, meaning that we're near the bottom. 47th might be arguable, but we do know that our mental health system is fragile, and that as we look at the number of homeless individuals and the incidences of folks picked up for drug and alcohol infractions, if you will, that we've got a problem that we're still working on trying to solve. If you add to it the struggles that will be caused by COVID and the impact on the budget, I think we're headed for a pretty stormy few years. This opportunity that we're presenting, as I said, is a $40 million hospital built in Washington County on the border between Washington and Clackamas counties. We believe that this will have an economic impact during a time of economic stress. As a for-profit entity, medical care entity, we will be paying taxes of all types. We'll also be employing external contractors to help us keep our facility up. As family members and friends come to visit patients, there'll be an impact on that local community as they come and stay for moments or days on end. We also believe that as the impact of COVID and the reduction of services in the behavioral health and substance use milieu comes to a head, there'll be many people who need jobs who could benefit from this new hospital being set up. As you probably know, there's a certificate of need process in the state of Oregon that we have completed. We're waiting for the state to confirm that application is complete, meaning that we've submitted everything that has been requested, but we have not received notice that the application is done. During this time, we've also asked the governor to use her executive power to bypass that requirement and allow UHS to step forward and be able to build a hospital without having to wait. There's a document that I submitted that has a number of other details, including the other partners that are supportive of this, including the Oregon Sheriff's Association, many other elected officials, mayors, other county electeds, and so forth. But I wanted to make sure that you had this information because it is fresh. I think it is timely, and I think the benefit for all of the state is here in your county, and just wanted to make sure you had this information. But I will continue to work with Health and Human Service staff to make sure that you have the best information and that the progress that is made is clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sorensen. And so you and our viewing audience know we commissioners have had the benefit of full briefings from our staff on this matter. Do we have anyone else signed up?
Yes, Madam Chair. Marcia Callender, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, please go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Marcia Callender, and I live in Beaverton, Oregon. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. I've been very supportive of the measures Governor Brown initiated in March to keep our citizens safe related to COVID-19. But as we approach month 4, I'm starting to have more questions and concerns. I realize the county and the board are mandated to follow guidance as set forth by the governor, but I am hopeful the board and our health department have a format by which some state decisions can be respectfully questioned in a constructive environment when appropriate. For example, recent data from Johns Hopkins University dated June 7th, 2020, indicate that Oregon ranks second to last in testing for all states. Why is that? Does this mean Dr. Fauci, who says testing, and all the other states are wrong? While the governor has placed a pause on applications for counties to apply or advance in phases, I would still like to encourage Washington County to apply for phase 2 as soon as appropriate and possible. Many businesses in our county are struggling, especially restaurants, and phase 2 will allow a clearer path forward to economic recovery. I'd also like to advocate for the nearly 137,000 children of Washington County who have been so disproportionately impacted by COVID-19 restrictions. These kids come from diverse economic and cultural backgrounds, and as we enter the heart of summer, I'm concerned that health data is being ignored that indicates outdoor activities are low risk for children contacting COVID. I see pools, parks, baseball, softball, and soccer fields, playgrounds having locks and chains on them. You can take your dog to the dog park, but kids don't have a place to play. A recent article in the Sunday Oregonian by Dr. Carlos Crispo from OHSU indicated many of these activities carry a very low risk for children in terms of contacting COVID-19 when common sense safety adaptations are utilized. Currently, our kids in Washington County can't participate in these activities because they're prohibited in phase 1. We have many wonderful park and rec facilities in our county, which are well supported by tax dollars. They're currently locked and shuttered, with hundreds of employees laid off. We all know childhood obesity is a problem with well-known detrimental health outcomes, especially in minority populations. I am hopeful that the board will advocate for these activities to resume as soon as possible. So in closing, I'm a nurse practitioner and I certainly understand the seriousness of COVID-19. But 3 months ago, Oregonians were asked to flatten the curve and await establishment of appropriate public health measures to manage this virus. We did that, and I somehow feel the rules got changed along the way, as evidenced by Multnomah County still essentially being locked down. Overall, the COVID statistics for Oregon, including hospitalizations and positivity rate, are still very low as compared to other states. And quite frankly, I fear some of the criteria set by the state to advance to phase 2 may never be met by our county. So in closing, I would just like to say I'm feeling very discouraged. The quality of my life and that of my children and grandchildren has been so adversely impacted by COVID-19 restrictions that I'm starting to question, is all this really worth it? I want to thank you for all you do for our citizens and for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Callender, for sharing your thoughts with us. It is a very complex situation, but we do appreciate hearing from you and your spending your time with us today. Thank you.
All right, next up, Madam Chair, Octavia Horn. Octavia, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
My name is, good morning, commissioners. My name is Octavia Horn, BSU advisor for Tiger Tualatin. And I just have a couple questions before I go into some statements some students have made. Do you believe that all lives matter? In your groups of friends, are you practicing equity and providing substance and teaching anti-racism? Does your social media reflect and pledge to serve and protect this county? If you haven't asked yourself these questions, then we have a problem. I'm going to state some of these statements from the students. I don't want to be treated like royalty, but I don't want to be treated like someone who doesn't matter either. Information does not bring transformation. People can talk about it all day, but racism is not empathy. It's what matters. People assuming that I'm visiting here and that I don't belong. Everybody at school, no matter what race, should be treated the same. Black people are no less beautiful or powerful or etc. We deserve respect. Never use the N-word. The N-word comes in all colors. We deserve to be treated fairly. I would like to see more Black teachers. I want to see myself reflected in everyday life. I want to talk about these problems. I want to discuss oppression. I want to talk about Black history in my classrooms. It's sad that we have to riot to get things done. They don't care about us. I don't feel supported. This all seems so messed up. I don't feel safe. What if somebody calls the police on me while I'm hanging out with my friends and we get murdered? Why do we have to work so hard to be accepted? Why hasn't anybody done anything for us? Why do we have to feel this way? Those are just some of the statements that these students have been going through for the past week since George Floyd's death. Our BSU presidents have put together protests, vigils, but we're at a standstill where we feel like this isn't enough. And so everybody asks, what can we do? And this is what they came up with. Equity audits for police departments, public agencies and offices, communities that promote more Black studies, programs, businesses that are Black owned in our county, increase diversity in our schools, in our county sectors, actually state what it is that we're doing, racism reforms, resolutions, and no more statements about how Black Lives Matter, no more statements about Happy Juneteenth, more actual, physical, direct change in these counties, business offices, from secretaries to commission officers. Yesterday, we found out that 4 Black men were hanging from trees. They're killing us. I know COVID is a pandemic right now, but racism has been a pandemic for over 400 years. They're killing us. And our kids are sad, and they're scared, and they're fearful, and they want to know, what can you do? How can you change it?